Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in Northern Michigan. Thank you so much for listening. You guys mean a lot to me. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on the thumbs up. Well, Piston fans, not going to lie, I keep it real with you. Honest, and again, I tell you at the very beginning, this is my perspective. Does that mean that I know everything? No, it doesn't. I mean, I'm right sometimes, I'm wrong sometimes, but I'm right more than I'm wrong. I can tell you that. But Detroit, in my opinion, we just really struck out on the free agent market, and it's not all, it's not necessarily Trajan's fault. We might not have been able to make those deals. I mean, there's one deal. So our big signing was Caris LeVert. So we got Caris LeVert, former University of Michigan Wolverine. He's been around the NBA. He's going to be 31 in August. He's 6'5". We signed him for 2 years and $29 million, so about $15 million a year, and that's a lot of money. My guess is we could not get Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That he's going to go to the Hawks, and the Hawks are going to be tough. The Hawks have made a lot of great positive moves. We have stood still. The Magic have made a whole bunch of great moves. We have stood still, and I guess it's a slight upgrade, in my opinion. Caris LeVert is a slight upgrade from Tim Hardaway Jr. He is better than Tim Hardaway Jr. Does that mean he's going to play better than Hardaway Jr. played last year? No. This year he averaged 12 points a game, 3.2 rebounds, 3.4 assists, shot 46% from the floor, a respectable 37% on threes, but he's a career 34% shooter. And I'm going to keep it honest again. I don't watch him play every day. When I watched him play, what I have, and I don't look at him closely, you got to go to Motor City Hoops and watch Bryce Simons. You'll probably have a breakdown that he's not a plus defender. He's probably a little bit below average defender, and he likes to take bad shots. I've seen him do that. He's a gunner. That's what I've seen, and maybe he'll be more unselfish when he's with the Pistons. Maybe JB will get him to do that. Another thing that concerns me is he's not this great player. And what JB has shown us, and shout out to JB, he was phenomenal for us last year. But JB plays the vets. So my thing is, when we get a guy who's not great, like Caris LeVert, and he's going to play them and prioritize Caris LeVert over Asar and Holland and Ivy. And who knows how it'll all sift out. We needed another shooter probably since we lost Beasley, probably, and I'll talk more about Beasley a little bit later, but it was just a very disappointing thing. Obviously, we really wanted Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's a really great defender, and he's a tough shooter, and he's only 26, so he's 5 years younger, and young players were winning games. Tough defense was winning games. And so 3-point shooting is winning games in the playoffs. And so, yeah, but if he wanted to sign somewhere else, that's not Trajan Langdon's fault. Here's my thing that really killed me, though. And we got to see, and we all speculated that Saudi Aldama was going to re-sign with the Grizzlies. We knew that they really liked him. And so I was just surprised. So they paid him 3 years, $52.5 million. So $17 million a year. We could have had him. My thing is, if there's a guy that we wanted to get to add to our team, we had to overpay a little bit. So I don't know what would have happened if we would have offered him $19 million. And I know that Trajan wants to keep flexibility. That's his priority. He's talked about it. Every time he gets behind the microphone, he talks about being patient and keeping everything flexible. So that's the LeVert thing, 2 years, but here Santi is only 3 years, and he's way younger. He's really young, and he has way more potential and a position of need, even more than. So we could have had for a shooting guard or small forward, we have Asar and Holland and Ivy can play those spots, and we don't have anybody to back up Tobias. He has no backup. And if he gets injured, what's going to happen? But my biggest killer was I wish somebody would explain it to me. Jake Laravia, he can play defense. He's 6'8". I wanted somebody, taller than that, 6'9" to 6'11", but he's a tough defender. He shoots the three really well. He's 23 years old, and he could have been Tobias's backup, and he could have possibly, and if Tobias got hurt, he'd step in, and in the future, if he keeps improving at the rate he's been, he could end up being a starter possibly someday. But he signed with the Lakers, the stinking Lakers, for 2 years, 12 million, 6 million a year. So here's my thing is, there's restraints with the cap and stuff, and we only had so much money to give. But 2 million is a very little percentage of what we had. And if we paid 14 million for 2 years, would he be taking it? And like I said, we need a backup. We needed a big. We got the one guy we got from Minnesota that was an undrafted free agent. And so I don't know. I just am very underwhelmed. Our other option people talked about was Duncan Robinson, and I wasn't thrilled about him. He's a great movement shooter, not quite as good as Beasley, but he's a little bit taller than Beasley, but I didn't want him either, and I don't know what it would have taken to sign him. So, but yeah, very underwhelming. The good news is we got B-ball Paul Reed signed with the Pistons, which was shocking to me because I've said this before. I love Paul Reed, and in the NBA, you need to have three centers, because what always happens is one of the three get hurt inevitably, and it happened. We saw it play out last year. And so when one gets hurt, you have to have a backup. And so if you don't have three, then you have just one. So I was glad that you could tell by the way that, I say always listen to the words of Trajan and JB and watch their actions of what they do. Those are the best indicators of what's going to happen. People debate all the time what we should do, what we might do, what we could do, and they're going off what they think. But it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what you think. It matters what Trajan and JB thinks. Well, listening to Trajan, he thinks very highly of Paul Reed. Watching what JB did, he doesn't think highly of Paul Reed. And so I was surprised that we re-signed him. But the center market is very thin. And at least we know what we get from him. Trajan talked at his most recent press conference about how Paul Reed stepped in and played so well in the playoffs when Stu was hurt, and he brings lots of energy. He blocks shots, he gets steals, he gets assists, he can shoot a three occasionally. He shoots a good percentage, and he just makes things happen. So happy that was 2 years, 11 million, and I'm curious to see if he could have been offered something else. But lots of moves around the league. The Rockets, stinking Rockets, they got Dorian Finney-Smith, one of the best 3-and-D forwards for not that much money. 4 years, 53 million. They're just loaded. They just are stockpiling players. They got Clint Capella, and they signed Steven Adams to an extension, and they've got three centers now, or at least. And of course, like I just said, you need three centers, but they're just loaded, and they got guys to sign. They got Jabari Smith Jr. signed this ridiculously low contract for 5 years for 122 million. So he's getting paid peanuts. I mean, compared to what most guys that get extensions. So they've got it going. They're set. They got Fred VanVleet to take a really reduced contract just for 2 years. So yeah, there's a lot of things have been happening, and a lot of deals have been made. And I'm not going to cover the whole league. I could, but like I said, I'm disappointed. Santi Aldama, we lost. I want Santi Aldama, Jake Laravia, and after we lost Beasley, Nikhil Alexander Walker. And so we struck out three strikes were out, and we got stuck with probably the best that we could do is to get LeVert. And so again, I can't completely blame Trajan if that was all that was left that we could get, but I just am heartbroken. And the most puzzling one of all is Jake Laravia. And obviously, I mean, I don't know. He either said he doesn't want to come to Detroit no matter what, but he said in an interview before the season ended about possible destinations, he listed like 4 or 5 teams. He wanted to go to a young team that was up and rising team, and so I don't know how we must have not offered him. We must have not or negotiated and try to go up. The other complicated thing is we are limited. We were limited to how much money we can spend, and so when you're limited, then you can't negotiate. If you negotiate with this guy and you're negotiating with that guy, multiple players at the same time, if you offer this guy, amount of money, then now all of a sudden you can't give that guy. So like if you wanted to give Caris LeVert that money, then you can't offer Jake Laravia. Then there's probably not enough money left over. I don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't know where exactly we're at financially. I will say this: we talk about the salary cap, and everybody gets worried about paying. I laugh at I get to listen. I listen to all the podcasts, and they're really good. A lot of these Piston podcasters, but oh yeah, I give Duran 25 million, but I wouldn't give him 27 million. Well, it's $2 million, and when the salary cap's 195 million this year, that's a small amount. And I know they keep on adding up if you don't watch yourself, but if we really want him, and that's a low number, so you could take Cade is going to make 40, so that did hurt us. You got to admit it. Cade getting all NBA, he got $9 more million a year, so that gave us $9 million less, which is very significant in trying to make these deals in free agency that we just had. And so, but he deserved it. So, and then if Ivy made 30 and Duran made 29 and Tobias made 20, of course, it's going to be interesting what happens. Tobias has just next year left on his contract. And then, but the thing is, even with Ivy and Duran, so say if Ivy made 30 and Duran made 28, which who knows what they would take. Again, Jabari Smith Jr. and he plays a high premium position, those wings, 3-and-D wings. He's only making like 25 million a year. And so, but if they made even that higher amount, their contract, if they sign the extension this summer, which they can, and Trajan said he's going to wait probably into August before he really starts even negotiating those things. But they still play next year on their rookie deal, so it doesn't kick in till the following year, their extension. Well, so that salary cap is going up at least roughly 20 million a year. So it's 195 million this year. So, next year it's gonna go up 10%. Everybody's almost positive it'll go up 10% every year. So if it goes up 10% every year, that's at least like $20 million every year. So if they sign for 30 million and you add up their salaries, it's really going to be a smaller amount of the pot. And if you can get those guys that good locked up, when teams really get in trouble is when they got the guys and they start getting 60 and 70 million a year. Cade will be making, by the end of his contract, the next 3 years, he's going to make a little over 40 million average in the next 3 years. But then, it gets up in the 50s and stuff the last 2 years. So that does go up. But, and then we do have to worry about Asar the following year. And Asar, if he has a year that I hope he has, he might want a max, because I know his brother's going to get a max. So we'll have to see how his season goes with him having a full summer to condition and get in practice and work out, which he was denied last year because of blood clots. But yeah, I'll jump back on if anything more significant happens. But I know that I got a little quiz for you. What do Jason Tatum and Therese Halliburton and Damian Lillard have in common? Okay, well, they all tore their Achilles this last year. What else do they have in common? They all wear the number 0. So cross your fingers that Jalen Duran does not pop his Achilles, because the number 0 obviously is a jinx, and those 3 guys all pulled their Achilles. I should have led with that because some people don't listen to the end of the podcast, but thank you very much for listening. Again, I'm going to be on if anything at all significant happens in the next couple days, but the main things I think we didn't have that much. I said all along for the last month or so, I felt like we were going to make one significant move, and our big move, we shot our wad on Caris LeVert, and I'm not in his fan club. I hope I am. You know, there's some people that have surprised me. I mean, even like Tobias had a mediocre season. He wasn't good until January, and then he was very good. And so let's hope that LeVert fits in. Let's hope that JB doesn't, um, that he makes sure that he gives Holland and uh, Asar minutes if they deserve it. And I'm sure Asar will be. We'll see what happens with Holland, but I thought he could have got more minutes last year, especially uh, when Tim Hardaway had a bad game, which was quite often, and if Holland had a good game, he still didn't get to play more minutes. But anyway, I'll quit rambling, but thank you very much for listening. Please be the reason that somebody feels cared for. Do something, make somebody smile today, and go Pistons.